friends. Back again. I know I said last time I'm not sure if we're going to do any of these, and guess what? The Lord had other plans as usual. And I'm old enough to know that as the Lord leads, I'm just going to follow Him because His plans are way better than mine or anything I could come up with. So, thanks for joining us today, and I'm so blessed and pleased to be chatting with my dear friend and brother, Dr. Greg Reid. Greg, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you, brother. Um, we had chatted, if you can call it. I'm not sure how you define uh, posting and posting a comment on a post and then having a reply to the post, to the comment on the post. I'm not sure what that is. It's
Multi-posting, I
communication.
guess.
Yeah, it's communication of some kind.
Yes.
Um, but we decided recently, hey, we have not uh, chatted with one another for far too long,
Yeah.
and old war horses like us, Greg, should really keep in touch better.
Yes, sir.
And I take full responsibility for that. Sometimes I let the busyness of life and a schedule and um, but the Lord is gracious, and so here we are.
Amen. And if you can ever define for me what a schedule is, I would really appreciate it.
Well, just as soon as I think I would have it nailed down, it would change. So
True. That's the nature of it.
that is the nature of it, and I wouldn't change a thing, though, Greg.
Me too.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I know you've got lots to talk about today. And friends, I don't know if you've got a copy of Greg's latest book or not, but if you don't, you have got to get this book, Diary of a Devil Hunter. Can I say, Greg, is it a fair statement to say this is really um, an autobiography of some very trying, difficult um, years of learning experiences? Uh, I just couldn't put it down. I kept reading, and there several times I was shaking my head and praising God that you even survived it.
Well, there was that. And I would say it was both, yes, in a sense, an autobiography, but also a documentary as we intersected with real life situations that people were being told were non-existent. And we were tangling with some very, very real monsters out there. And since there were so many people saying that none of that stuff ever happened, I thought I'm obligated before God to be a truth teller. I always have been. That's the most important thing. Tell the truth of the Word of God and tell the truth of the things as He shows us in the world around us, like the sons of Issachar that were able to see what's happening and tell Israel what to do. I have always had that sense. So when I started this, I realized somebody's got to leave a record of the war that we fought so they can get maybe some insight into the war that we're going to face now, because what's old is new. Nothing changes except the heads of the Hydra that get chopped off every once in a while. That's
Yeah,
all. Same monsters, just different heads on the monster.
yeah, that's exactly right. And um, another way I would describe this book, friends, is that, and this is a popular idiom today. I don't know if it had been popular in the past. I'm just hearing it recently, especially within the political context, the political realm. But Greg's got the receipts. The things that he talks about in this book, um, names, those that collaborated with him, some of them that didn't and found out the hard way. This is a not just a deep subject, but it's a subject that is disturbing at a lot of levels. And I think that's one reason why, Greg, the Lord is very selective in who He calls to this ministry.
Absolutely. And I've always told people, and it's true that as well as some of the deliverance ministry. If God doesn't call you to it, please don't do it.
Yeah.
It's very important that you have the equipment and you have the go ahead from God. And when we narrow down the work that we do, I know sometimes people are like, well, we want to help. What do we do? What do we do? And it's not something where most people can do hands on, going in, investigating things, trying to ferret out some of these criminal elements that are dealing in child trafficking, for one thing, which nobody even talked about 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
we were already way down in the mud and the blood of that situation, and finding out who to give this information to that possibly was going to do something about that. And when we talk about what's old is new, I'm very pleased that we're finally going to do something about finding out where a lot of people are, but I'm still asking the question. Until I get the answer, where are the 350,000 children that disappeared? I don't have much confidence, because somebody knows where they are and we're not being told. And that is always the battle that we face. Is there are things in place, particularly in the occult world, when you get to higher levels, that are determined that people are silenced. When you get to a point, you come up on their radar, they'll do what they have to do to keep you quiet. That was
Yeah.
a lot of what we faced.
Yeah. And I think today, just to give that comment some context to our current situation, I'm a lot dismayed by the comment from our current um, AG that for national security purposes, uh, a lot of the documents that are now available to see the light of day are not going to see the light of day. They're going to be redacted. And this speaks exactly to what you just said, Greg.
We're back where we started in some senses. Who makes that decision? And that person that makes those decisions, what do they have? Are they legit, or do they have an investment in the silencing of the truth? And that's always, the dual side of the coin that we've always talked about in politics. I'm not a political person, but what I need to, particularly now with something, because we've had a lot of those children come through our city and we know it. We've had some firsthand accounts from people actually in the agencies, law enforcement agencies, that have confirmed that these things are real and the children are being transported out of the city as soon as they get here. And for me, it's always been about the young people and the children. When we first got started, a lot of the work that we were having to at least deal with on some level was adult survivors of what they call ritual abuse. Uh, and people that were multiple personality, things like that. And I had a background in all of that. I'm thankful that I was not, did not become multiple. Uh, but I realized that a lot of people were, and I had to make kind of a, I don't know, executive decision on where I needed to spend my time, because I realized that the situation with people who had really been raised in this, like myself, the amount of work and prayer that's needed for healing requires people that are specifically called to that. And I'm thankful that God began to raise up ministries that actually would take people that have been through ritual abuse and walk them through all the hard portions. But I had to narrow my own focus into what it specifically has God called me to do. And it turned out to be with children who are being trafficked and with youth, and spend most of my work there. And that in itself has taken up 20 years of just 24/7
Yeah.
hard work and tears and all those things that warfare really requires for you to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something that reminded me that one of the great needs in this ministry field is that when victims are identified and um, rescued, there needs to be a a safe structure available for them, and people that are committed to seeing these individuals healed at many different levels. That, because of a recent conversation I've had with someone closer to me, um, that seems to be critically lacking in this effort of rescuing and bringing healing to people. Has that been your experience over the years, Greg?
It has been, and we've got some dear friends out of Missouri who are have a program called JKK Ministries that are actually building a home for trafficked women,
Wow.
which is wonderful. They're doing a
Yes.
great job, and that's JKK Ministries. And but in talking to them and talking to some of my other friends that are in the trafficking breakup, those that are trying to stop this, there's a couple of things that occurred to me and are difficult. One is that we're reaching a very important group of people who are being trafficked, and they absolutely need to be rescued. But it's down to the level of the ones that are generally getting taken out of there are young women who have been lured. They either come in from another country, promised a job, as we've seen in some of the recent movies that have come out, or it's teenage girls who are having troubles at home and they're lured into the trafficking, into prostitution. Critically important we rescue them, absolutely. But at some point, we need to be honest enough to realize we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And that for I'll say the trafficking cartels, they'll allow you to take off top bottom level what they consider of victims, because they consider it an acceptable business loss, as long as nobody makes the connection up to higher levels where you deal with politicians, you deal with people in high places. So they will allow a certain level of that. Like I said, it's critically important. It breaks my heart to see how vast the number of young women who have been trafficked. But as far as I know, at least from this point, there's no home for boys or teenagers that have been trafficked. There's nothing specifically to help them. And it's a whole different area that somehow God needs to raise up, because there are different needs and different aspects of that. So it's there's so many areas where we need the assistance. And again, the harvest is ripe, the workers are few. And God needs to raise up more workers who are specifically called to assist in some way, whether it's financial, whether it's being, on committees for those things, or prayer groups that are specifically praying for them. There's a lot of things that need to happen there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's there's so many challenges inherent in that kind of a ministry. Group housing can be problematic for a number of reasons, without 24/7 supervision. And so, yeah, I guess I'm saying this for those who have been praying about, or maybe they're involved in rescue, that there needs to be a very robust local network of volunteers that are willing to give their time, and it will take a lot of time. This isn't just a rescue on the weekend and get them detoxed in 2 weeks and get their minds right, and then they're off to a happy life. That's not how this works.
No, the wounds are deep and wide. And I thought for a long time, and I try to kind of avoid being too, I don't want to push people over the edge with things,
Yeah.
because when you get in this kind of work, you see things you can never unsee. You live with the nightmares and the really PTSD. I mean, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Master, and He is ruler over my heart, my life, my mind, all of that. I have a constant need to renew my mind, but a war is a war. And some of that PTSD you pick up by just having to see how deep this goes. And so part of me wants to tell people the need is serious without pushing them over the edge into, how bad it is, but just without being really graphic. One of the things that occurred to me at some point is, in our attempt to heal people, the younger the age, the more difficult, because the greater the vulnerability to just blocking out whatever's happened. And at some point, and again, forgive me, but this, just what I need to say, one of the most sought after videos in the dark web and the child porn industry is